Okay, so we've done enough now, or at least have enough on the screen, that it's time to start moving into how React manages data. And there's a bunch of ways to teach this, but I think the easiest way is just to create some data really quickly, and then to pass it through our application. So we can see just kind of the data flow, the direction of the data flow, how it works, and the mechanisms to pass data. So I'm going to create an object here called data, and I'm going to give it a name. And we're going to make a playlist about classic Disney movie songs. And it'll be a top 10. So let's say classic Disney movie songs, top 10. It's not a great name for a playlist, but so be it. Then I have a songs array. And let's add some songs here. Let's give each song a title or name, song name. That probably makes more sense. And then we'll say, or let's just call it song name. That's more descriptive. And I'll say, let's go with A Whole New World. Every time I say these, I kind of want to sing them in my head. I'm not going to. Let's say movie title. Let's go with Aladdin. Duration. I'm going to say this one is 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And then we can just make a couple of these. Let's make another one. And let's, for the second song here, let's go with Let It Go in Frozen. And that song is 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Let's say Circle of Life in The Lion King. And that song is like 4 minutes and 50 seconds. 4 minutes 51 seconds maybe. Let's go with How Far I'll Go, Moana. And let's go 2:44. And let's say I'll make a man out of you from Mulan. And that is 3:41. Now let's also say bare necessities. How do you spell necessities? Did I spell that right? Doesn't matter. From the Jungle Book. And we'll say it's 4:15. And so now I have some songs, and I'm just going to take this data, and I'm going to pass it to my playlist like this. In the same way we define attributes, like class name, you can also define data attributes in React. And we call those data attributes props or properties. And so I'm going to pass a prop to playlist called, let's just call it playlist. And I'm going to pass in, and we're going to use the squiggly brackets here. This is how you pass in JavaScript variables. And you can see here, JSX attributes must only be assigned a non-empty expression. So I'm going to give it an expression, and that is going to be the data attribute, or the data variable, the object I just defined here. And so by doing this, I'm now passing data from this app component to the playlist component. Now, this isn't a great example of why this is powerful, but it should demonstrate how, or at least the mechanism by which we pass data from one component to another. And notice how you can only pass data from a component that renders, this is called the parent, the app component is the parent component, to the child component, which is the playlist component. And so we can access that data in the playlist component as the argument to the function. And so this accepts props or properties. And then here, instead of having the div with a class name of title, just say title, I can say props dot. And remember that the prop I pass to it, the property I pass to it, is called playlist. And so the name I give here is the name of the prop. And so I can come into my playlist, like say props dot playlist dot name, since it is an object. And then I can save this. And I see the title of my playlist displayed here. And that is how we manage data passing through props in React. You pass data from parent component to child component, and it only moves in that direction, which is why it's known as unidirectional data flow. And this playlist component then has access to the data by whatever name we give it here. And so it accepts a single argument called props, and then whatever props are passed to it, like this, are then available on that props object. Now, props is an object, which means if we wanted to, we could destructure it. Do something like this. Instead of just having the props object and saying something like const title equals props.playlist.name, you can actually just destructure out the playlist like this. And so you'll see me doing this more often just because a lot of times it's clear to read. So now this playlist is destructuring out all the props that are passed to it. So instead of saying props.playlist.name, I can just say playlist.name. But for the time being, we'll leave it at props because I want that word to be stuck in your head. Props. Props are the data that is passed from parent component to child component, and props never change. So let's see how we can use the songs props next to render a list of songs.